A 1,000-year-old cathedral stands against time. Its walls hold a secret modern engineering is only beginning to understand. Ancient builders, working without steel or machinery, mastered a hidden science that gave stone the strength to last for millennia. This was not magic, but a profound understanding of two invisible forces, shape and sound. By the end of this exploration, you will see every ancient monument as a frozen symphony of geometry and vibration. How did a simple arch redirect the crushing weight of a mountain? Why would a master mason tap a stone and listen before he ever placed it? The answers reveal a lost art of construction, where the right form and the perfect frequency could make rock behave in impossible ways. What does it mean to build something meant to outlast civilization itself? The stone itself was the first and most important choice. Every ancient structure begins not with a blueprint, but with the earth, and the builders knew that not all rock was created equal. They were master geologists long before the science had a name, selecting limestone, granite, and sandstone with a purpose that went far beyond simple durability. Each type of stone had a personality, a unique internal architecture defined by its mineral composition and crystalline structure. Granite, dense and granular, was a stubborn giant, resisting the chisel but holding a deep, resonant tone when struck. Limestone, softer and more uniform, could be carved with intricate detail and seemed to absorb and mellow vibrations into a gentle hum. Sandstone, layered and sedimentary, had a grain that could sing or split depending on how you worked with it. This wasn't random selection, it was a matching of material to mission. The builders listened to the stone from the very beginning. The quarrying process itself was a delicate art of persuasion, not brute force. They would study the face of a cliff, searching for natural fracture lines and planes of weakness, then use wooden wedges and water to encourage the rock to separate along its own hidden seams. This careful method preserved the internal integrity of the stone, minimizing hidden stresses and flaws that could cause catastrophic failure centuries later. Think of it like a diamond cutter who must understand the gem's internal crystal structure to cleave it perfectly, rather than shattering it. The ancient mason was doing the same on a monumental scale. He wasn't just extracting a block, he was liberating a potential pillar or lintel with its inherent strength intact. This deep, intuitive knowledge of the material was the essential foundation. You cannot shape what you do not understand, and you certainly cannot make it sing. The stone was their canvas, and its unique properties set the boundaries for the masterpiece to come. Only with this profound respect for the raw material could the true magic begin, the application of forms and frequencies that would defy gravity itself. The true revolution began not with a new material, but with a new shape. For thousands of years, the primary method of spanning a space was the simple lintel, a horizontal beam resting on two vertical posts. It was a logical approach, but it had a fatal flaw. The entire weight of the wall above pressed straight down on the center of that beam, creating immense tension along its bottom edge. Stone, while incredibly strong under compression, is terribly weak when pulled apart. A lintel could only span a distance as wide as the length of an unbroken stone slab, and even then, it lived under constant, silent stress. Then someone looked at a cracked lintel and saw not failure, but inspiration. That curved line of fracture became the blueprint for one of humanity's greatest structural discoveries, the arch. This was not merely a decorative flourish, it was a fundamental reimagining of how force could travel through stone. By arranging wedge-shaped blocks called voussoirs into a gentle curve, the builders performed a kind of gravitational alchemy. The weight from above was no longer a downward crush, but was transformed. channeled along the elegant curve of the arch and pushed outward and downward into the supporting piers or walls. The arch cleverly turns stone's greatest weakness into its ultimate strength. It creates a state of pure compression, where every block is pressed firmly against its neighbors, each one locking the others more securely into place. The more weight you put on top of a properly built arch, the stronger it becomes as the force simply tightens the interlocking puzzle. This principle allowed for the impossible. Look at a Roman aqueduct, its rows of arches marching across a valley like a stone bridge built by giants. Those structures carry not just their own weight, but the weight of a flowing river channeled high above the ground. They could span distances no lintel ever could, and they did it with an elegance that feels almost alive. The arch meant walls no longer had to be thick, solid masses just to hold up a roof. Openings could be wider, interiors could be flooded with light, and the very skeleton of a building could become a thing of beauty and grace. It was geometry defeating gravity, a silent testament to the power of the right shape. But the arch was only one brilliant shape in an ancient architect's toolkit. Another form stands as the ultimate symbol of stability, a shape so perfectly engineered for its purpose that it has become synonymous with eternity itself, the pyramid. While we often marvel at its scale, the true genius of the pyramid lies in its breathtakingly simple geometry. That iconic silhouette is not just a dramatic profile against the desert sky, it is a masterclass in force distribution. The broad, square base and the four precisely angled sides work in perfect harmony to channel the unimaginable weight of millions of stone blocks down and outwards, dispersing the load evenly into the forgiving earth below. Think of it like pushing your hand into soft sand. A pointed stick goes in deep, but a flat, wide board settles on the surface, distributing your force over a much larger area. The pyramid is that board, engineered on a colossal scale. This shape possesses a remarkable resilience against the two great enemies of any massive structure: earthquakes and the slow, inevitable settling of the ground. The sloping sides give the pyramid a low center of gravity and a geometry that naturally resists shearing, the sideways forces that can topple vertical walls. It behaves less like a pile of separate stones and more like a single, monolithic mountain, an artificial geology crafted by human hands. This is why the precision of its angles was a matter of survival, not just artistry. A deviation of a single degree over such a vast height would create internal stresses, weak points where the perfect flow of compression would be disrupted. The builders in Egypt and half a world away in the jungles of Mesoamerica arrived at this same perfect form independently, a testament to its fundamental engineering truth. They understood that to build for the ages, you must first make peace with the ground beneath you. The pyramid does not fight gravity, it collaborates with it, using shape to transform crushing weight into serene, unmovable permanence. Yet, even this most stable of forms was not silent. If shape managed the dance of weight, then another, more subtle force was needed to perfect the partnership between each individual stone. But what happens when the arch, that elegant curve of compressed force, is simply not part of your architectural tradition? In places like ancient Masonry or the early cultures of the Mediterranean, builders faced the same monumental challenge to span a vast space with solid stone, and they arrived at a brilliantly different answer. Their solution was a masterful exercise in patience and geometry, a technique known as corbelling. Imagine building a dome not with curved blocks but with perfectly flat ones. The builders would lay a ring of stones, then lay another ring on top, shifting each stone inward just a fraction. They repeated this process ring after ring, each course cantilevering slightly over the one below. It was a slow, meticulous spiral, a staircase turned inward upon itself. With each ascending layer, the open space below narrowed, the weight of the new stones pressing down and inward, until finally, A single capstone could seal the entire structure at its peak. The result, like the magnificent treasury of Atreus, is a soaring, beehive-shaped tomb that feels both impossibly grand and intimately secure. This was a false dome, a vault built entirely from the principle of compression, but achieved through a stepped, angular dance rather than a smooth arc. Every stone in that corbelled vault is held in a state of perfect balance, its weight transferred along a diagonal line through the stone beneath it, all the way down to the massive walls. It is architecture as a slow, deliberate convergence, geometry patiently guiding gravity to a single, stable point. This same principle of the cantilever, of a beam anchored at one end to support weight at the other, found expression in more delicate forms as well. In ancient palaces and temples, you see stone balconies and roof eaves projecting boldly into open air. These are not merely decorative, they are demonstrations of confidence in the stone's own strength. The builders understood that a block firmly embedded in a thick wall could resist the bending force, the tension, created by its own projecting length. It is the same principle you use when holding a heavy book at arm's length, your muscles and bones creating a living cantilever. In stone, it was a calculated risk that became a testament to their precise understanding of form and force. Whether in the monumental patience of a corbelled tomb or the daring reach of a stone balcony, these builders proved there was more than one path to strength. They showed that by listening to the stone and thinking in layers, in steps, in projections, you could coax it to perform feats that seemed to defy its very nature. Yet, even the most perfectly balanced stone, whether in an arch, a pyramid, or a corbel, could have a hidden flaw, a weakness waiting to be exposed by time. How did the ancients find these flaws without modern tools? Their method was astonishingly simple, and it relied not on sight but on sound. The master mason's final test was a gentle, listening tap. Before a stone was ever set into place, he would strike it with a small hammer and lean close, his ear almost touching the cool surface. He was not checking for a solid thud, but listening for the stone's song. A clear, ringing tone, like a bell, meant the block was free of hidden cracks or flaws, its internal structure whole and ready to bear a load for centuries. A dull, dead thump, however, was a warning. It signaled an invisible fracture, a weakness that could silently spread under pressure until the entire block, and perhaps the structure around it, failed. This ancient practice of sonic testing reveals a profound truth. These builders understood that stone is not inert, it is alive with vibration. Every material has a natural resonant frequency, a specific pitch at which it most readily vibrates. By finding and matching these frequencies, they could do more than just test for flaws. They could make entire structures hum with a hidden strength. This leads us to perhaps the most breathtaking evolution of the arch, a shape that encloses space not in a tunnel, but in a perfect, soaring embrace. If the arch is a two-dimensional curve that redirects force, then the dome is its magnificent three-dimensional descendant. It is an arch spun around its center, a self-supporting shell that creates a universe under a single roof. To stand beneath the great dome of the Hagia Sophia in Constantinople is to experience this principle made manifest. Your eye is drawn irresistibly upward, not to a ceiling held up by a forest of columns, but to a vast, weightless-looking hemisphere that seems to float on a ring of light. This was the Byzantine architect's staggering achievement. They understood that the perfect hemispherical shape performs a miraculous act of engineering distribution. The weight of the dome is not concentrated in a few spots, but is pushed outward and downward continuously and uniformly in all directions, channeled along the endless curves of the stone into a supporting ring of walls and piers below. It creates a state of perfect, continuous compression, a balanced tension that holds the entire form in a stable, breathless equilibrium. This geometry was liberation. It allowed for interiors of staggering scale, vast column-free spaces that could hold thousands of people and fill them with a sense of the divine. The dome did not just cover a space, it defined a new kind of space, one that felt both immense and intimate, heavy and impossibly light. It demonstrated that the right shape could literally elevate architecture, merging spiritual aspiration with physical law to create a shelter that felt less like a building and more like a captured piece of the sky itself. This concept of dynamic stability finds its most astonishing expression in a place where the earth itself is rarely still. In the high Andes of Peru and half a world away in the castles of Japan, ancient builders developed a masonry technique so counterintuitive it seems to defy logic. They abandoned the simple, predictable rectangle for a world of complex, irregular polygons. At sites like Sacsayhuaman, you find walls composed of massive stones, some weighing hundreds of tons, each one a unique, many-sided shape. They fit together with a precision so tight you cannot slip a piece of paper between them, a colossal three-dimensional jigsaw puzzle carved from solid granite. For a long time, modern observers saw this as a primitive or mysterious method. The truth is far more brilliant. This polygonal masonry is not a lack of technology. It is a sophisticated seismic engineering solution born from necessity. In earthquake-prone regions, a rigid, mortared wall of uniform blocks is a recipe for disaster. When the ground shakes, that straight, continuous mortar line becomes a line of weakness, a single plane along which the entire structure can crack and collapse. The Peruvian and Japanese builders solved this by eliminating the straight line altogether. By crafting each stone with multiple angled faces, they created a wall that was essentially all corners. Under the immense pressure of its own weight, each irregular block locks tightly into its neighbors along a complex network of interlocking surfaces. The force is distributed in countless directions, weaving through the wall like a web rather than flowing down a single, vulnerable seam. But the real magic happens when the earth moves. During a tremor, these polygonal stones have a slight, controlled ability to shift and rotate minutely against one another. They absorb and dissipate the seismic energy through friction and movement across their many contact points. Then, when the shaking stops, gravity and their own interlocking shapes guide them perfectly back into place. It is a wall with a built-in flexibility, a dance of stone that allows it to sway without falling. This principle is visible in the surviving walls of Japanese castles, where massive, multifaceted boulders form foundations that have shrugged off centuries of tremors. The builders understood that sometimes, to achieve ultimate strength, you must introduce a calculated degree of flexibility. They designed not for a static, perfect world, but for the dynamic, unpredictable reality of a living planet. Their walls were not just barriers, they were participants in a conversation with the earth, able to listen to its movements and respond without breaking. This leads us from the grand scale of walls and domes to the most intimate connection of all, the precise moment one stone meets another. The gentle tap of a mason's hammer was more than a simple test. It was a conversation with the stone itself, a listening for the clear, ringing note that signaled hidden wholeness. This practice points to a deeper layer of ancient understanding, one that moves beyond the silent geometry of shapes to embrace a living, invisible force. If form mastered the dance of weight, then sound mastered the very spirit of the material. This is the world of resonance, the phenomenon where an object begins to vibrate powerfully at its natural frequency. Every stone, every block of granite or slab of limestone has this unique internal pitch, a note it most wants to sing. Ancient cultures across the globe observed this musical quality of the earth. They heard monoliths ring like bells when struck, felt standing stones hum in a strong wind, and noticed how certain caves amplified whispers into echoes. These were not seen as mere curiosities, but as clues to a fundamental truth. Sound was not just something you heard, it was a tangible energy that could interact with solid matter. The revolutionary idea began to form. What if this vibrational energy could be used not to break stone apart, but to somehow bring it together? What if sound could be a tool for construction, a way to coax rigidity into alignment or to find a perfect fit that the eye alone could not see? This bridges the gap between physical form and vibrational energy, suggesting that the ancients saw a building not as a static pile of rock, but as a kind of frozen symphony. Each component, tuned to its purpose, would contribute to the structural harmony of the whole. Think of a skilled singer who can shatter a glass with a sustained, pure note. The sound waves transfer energy into the glass, finding its resonant frequency and amplifying the vibrations until the material cannot hold itself together. Now imagine that principle in reverse. Instead of using resonance to break, could you use it to settle, to seat, or to strengthen? Could specific, controlled frequencies help microscopic grains in a sandstone block lock more tightly, or encourage a massive lintel to settle into its supports without creating internal fractures? This is the tantalizing frontier where archaeology meets acoustics. It moves the narrative from what we can see, the arch and the dome, to what we might feel, a subtle hum of stability woven into the very stones. It suggests that the greatest structures were designed not just for the eye, but for the ear of the earth itself, tuned to endure through millennia by harmonizing with the unseen forces that bind the world together. Legends from across the ancient world whisper of the impossible. Tibetan monks are said to have moved massive blocks up mountain slopes using only the deep, synchronized hum of long trumpets. Stories from the builders of Stonehenge speak of drums and chants that made the great sarsen stones light as feathers, guiding them into place. On the surface, these tales live in the realm of pure myth, a magical explanation for a feat we struggle to replicate even with modern machinery. But to dismiss them entirely is to miss a deeper layer of truth. These persistent legends are not necessarily records of literal, gravity-defying flight. Instead, they are powerful cultural memories pointing to a real and profound understanding of resonance as a practical tool. Think of the phenomenon on a human scale. Have you ever felt a powerful bass note from a speaker, not just in your ears but in your chest, vibrating through the floor? Sound is a physical force, a wave of energy that moves through air and matter. Now imagine that force applied with precision and consistency. A steady, pure tone directed at a massive object could, in theory, create a standing wave pattern around it. This pattern of intense vibration might not cancel gravity, but it could significantly reduce the effective friction between the stone and the ground or its wooden sled. It would be like turning a rough, grinding drag into a smooth, almost fluid slide. The colossal weight would remain, but the stubborn resistance that makes it immovable could be momentarily overcome. This transforms the stories from fantasy into a potential description of applied physics, passed down through generations in the language of ritual and wonder. The chants, the drums, the specific instruments were not mere ceremony. They were the ancient equivalent of tuning a machine, a way to harness a consistent collective frequency that interacted directly with the material world. The ritual became the operating procedure. The music was not separate from the labor, it was the very method that made the labor possible. It united the workforce in rhythm and breath, aligning human effort with the vibrational need of the task. This idea suggests that the most sacred spaces, from stone circles to temple foundations, were not just built with music, but in a very real sense built by it. The legends of levitation, then, are perhaps a metaphorical truth. They remember a time when sound did indeed make the immovable move, not by magic, but by a forgotten science that understood the hidden song within the stone and learned how to sing along. The legends of levitating stones point to a profound truth, that sound was a tool as real as the chisel. This understanding began not on the construction site, but at the very source, in the deep quiet of the quarry. Here, before a block was ever shaped or moved, it underwent a final, critical examination. The test was not a measurement with calipers or a scan with light, but a simple, deliberate act of listening. A skilled worker would take a small hammer and strike the surface of a freshly cut stone, then lean in close, his ear almost touching the cool rock. In that moment, he was not a laborer, but a diagnostician of the deep earth. What he listened for was the stone's own voice, the subtle song trapped within its crystalline structure. A clear, bright, ringing tone, one that seemed to hang in the air like the note from a fine bell, was the signal he sought. That pure resonance meant the stone was whole. Its internal architecture was consistent, with few hidden fractures or pockets of softer material. It was a block of uniform density, a candidate ready to bear the immense, unyielding weight of a lintel or a column for 1,000 years. This was the quarry's song of approval. A very different sound spelled immediate rejection. A dull, flat thud, a noise that died the instant it was born, was a warning cry from within the stone. That dead tone indicated hidden flaws, a network of microscopic cracks or inconsistent layers that created chaos inside the material. Under the immense, silent pressure of a finished structure, those tiny weaknesses could become the starting point for a catastrophic failure. A stone that thudded was left behind, deemed unfit for the legacy being built. This ancient practice, seen across cultures from Egypt to China, was a brilliant form of non-destructive evaluation. They were using resonance as a diagnostic tool, a way to see inside the stone without ever breaking it open. By exciting the material with a sharp impact, they caused it to vibrate at its natural frequencies. The quality of that vibration, the purity or muddiness of the resulting sound, gave them a direct readout of the stone's internal integrity. It was quality control written in a language of pitch and timbre. This ensured that the structural soundness of a monument was guaranteed from its very inception. Every ringing block that left the quarry carried with it a promise of longevity, a vibrational signature of strength that would become one silent note in the greater symphony of the finished building. The mason's ear was the first and most important instrument in a process that would eventually use sound not just to test, but to transform. The ringing note of a flawless stone held another secret, a potential far more active than simple testing. If sound could reveal a hidden fracture, could it also create one? This leads us to a principle that seems to border on the fantastical, the idea of resonance as a cutting tool. Beyond the legends of moving mountains with song, there is compelling evidence that some ancient cultures may have used focused vibrational energy to actually shape the hardest stone. The concept rests on a clear physical principle. Every material has a natural frequency at which it vibrates most easily. By directing a powerful, sustained resonant tone at a specific point on a granite block, for instance, the builders could induce intense, localized vibrations within the stone's crystalline matrix. This wouldn't melt or vaporize the rock, but it would create a state of internal stress, a microscopic turmoil where bonds between mineral grains are agitated and weakened. Think of bending a metal paperclip back and forth repeatedly. The metal fatigues at that specific point, becoming hotter and more brittle until it finally snaps. Resonant sound could achieve a similar effect on a mineral level, essentially fatiguing the stone along a precise, invisible line. Once the internal structure was softened by this vibrational onslaught, the actual physical work of cutting could begin. Workers could then use their stone or copper tools not to fight the full, stubborn strength of solid granite, but to guide a fracture that the sound had already prepared. The tools become more like a sculptor's chisel following a vein in marble, rather than a miner's pick trying to blast through bedrock. This resonant assistance could explain some of history's most perplexing stonework. Look at the andesite blocks at Puma Punku in Bolivia, a site that continues to baffle researchers. The stone there is famously hard, yet it is cut with geometric precision that feels machined. Surfaces are perfectly flat, angles are razor sharp, and intricate channels and notches are carved with a consistency that seems to defy the presumed tools of the era. Using only stone hammers and copper chisels, achieving such work on that scale and hardness would be a monumental, nearly impossible struggle. But if those physical tools were aided by a technology of vibration, the task transforms. The resonant frequency would do the hidden work of breaking internal bonds, allowing the craftsman to peel away layers of stone with relative ease, achieving that legendary smoothness. It suggests a process where cutting was a duet between human force and acoustic energy. The sound would have been a tangible presence in the workshop, a deep, droning hum that filled the air and traveled up through the feet of the workers, a physical sensation of power being applied. This method would not only save immense labor and time, but it would also result in a superior finish, as the stone would fracture more cleanly along its own crystalline planes, leaving those eerily smooth surfaces rather than rough, hammered ones. The idea moves resonance from a diagnostic tool to an active participant in the very act of creation. It paints a picture of ancient workshops not as silent places of brute force, but as humming laboratories of applied acoustics, where the right note was as essential as the right hammer. The final perfect seat for a cornerstone was not found by force but by feeling. After the stone was shaped and tested, its journey culminated in the most critical act of all, being set into the earth. This was the moment a block became part of a building, and the ancients approached it with a reverence that bordered on ceremony. Modern construction uses massive machines to vibrate wet concrete, driving out air bubbles and settling the mixture into a dense, uniform mass. A fascinating theory suggests that ancient builders may have achieved a similar result using nothing but rhythm and resonance to prepare the very ground beneath their monuments. Imagine the scene at a sacred building site. The foundation trench is dug, and a layer of carefully selected sand or crushed gravel is spread level. The colossal foundation stone, perhaps weighing tons, is painstakingly maneuvered into position above its resting place. But it does not simply drop. Instead, a team of workers surrounds it, not with levers but with heavy, ritualistic implements. They begin a sustained, synchronized pounding on the stone itself, or on wooden beams wedged against its sides. This is not random hammering. It is a deliberate, rhythmic percussion, a deep, resonant drumming that travels through the stone and into the bedding material below. The goal was not to break the rock but to transform the earth that would hold it. This rhythmic vibration would act upon the loose sand or gravel in a remarkable way. The constant, shaking motion would cause the individual grains to momentarily lose their friction and rearrange themselves, flowing like a thick liquid around the bottom contours of the stone. This process, what geologists call liquefaction or fluidization, allows the heavy block to sink slowly, evenly, and under its own weight, into a state of perfect equilibrium. The stone seeks its own most stable position, settling until it meets uniform resistance from all sides. When the pounding finally ceases, the grains lock tightly together again, now packed into an incredibly dense, solid matrix that cradles the foundation block in a custom-fitted socket. The ground itself has been tuned to accept its new burden. This method ensured a level base far more accurate than human hands could achieve with simple measuring tools. More importantly, it created a unified foundation. The stone and its bedding became a single, cohesive unit, with no hidden voids or uneven pressure points that could lead to differential settling and catastrophic cracks centuries later. By finding the resonant frequency of the local earth materials, the builders were essentially singing the ground into a state of perfect readiness. They were not just placing a stone on the dirt, they were convincing the dirt to become part of the structure. This practice turns the foundation from a passive platform into an active participant in the building's stability, a harmonic beginning that would resonate through every stone laid above it for 1,000 years. A sacred space was never meant to be silent. In the soaring heights of a Gothic cathedral or the open bowl of an ancient Greek theater, the architects pursued a divine clarity of sound. Every whispered prayer, every chanted hymn, every spoken word was to be heard with perfect resonance. But this quest for acoustic perfection may have gifted these structures with a hidden, secondary strength. The very shapes crafted to guide sound also mastered the art of guiding unseen forces. Take the curved apse behind a cathedral's altar. This shell-like form does more than project a choir's voice to the congregation. Its concave surface acts as a focusing mirror for vibrational energy of all kinds. When a strong wind presses against the massive stone walls, or when the footsteps and murmurs of 1,000 worshippers send tremors through the floor, that energy is captured and redirected. Instead of bouncing randomly through the masonry, creating chaotic stress points, the curved geometry of the apse and the complex, ribbed vaults above channel these vibrations along predetermined paths. They gather the diffuse energy and funnel it smoothly downward into the thick pillars and solid earth below. It is a system of vibrational drainage. Consider the parabolic design of some ancient theaters, where a speaker standing at a specific focal point could be heard clearly by every person in the stands, even without raising their voice. That same parabolic curve works in reverse for incoming energy. Vibrations from the environment are collected across the broad opening of the theater and focused inward, not to a single destructive point, but along the reinforced curve of the stone seating, dissipating the force through the entire structure's embrace. This means the building itself was engineered to hum. It was designed not as a rigid, brittle object, but as a giant, tuned resonator. By giving vibrational energy a clear and elegant path to follow, the architects prevented it from settling into destructive standing waves, the acoustic equivalents of a fault line. A standing wave at the wrong frequency could, over decades, shake mortar loose or amplify tiny cracks into major failures. But in a space designed for resonance, those dangerous frequencies are absorbed, transformed, and released. The stone sings on a scale we cannot hear, a constant, low hum of stability. The perfect acoustics for a human choir were, in a profound sense, also the perfect acoustics for structural survival. The building listened to the world and in doing so learned how to endure its voice. The most profound realization is that shape and sound were a single, unified language. The silent geometry of an arch and the audible ring of a struck stone were two expressions of the same fundamental truth, vibrational energy made visible and permanent. Every structure, from the smallest shrine to the greatest cathedral, possessed a unique acoustic signature, a set of natural frequencies at which it most wanted to vibrate. These vibrational modes were not random, they were dictated by the building's form. The soaring height of a spire, the sweeping curve of a vault, the precise angles of a pyramid, all of these geometric choices wrote a kind of silent music into the stone. The ancient builders, through generations of observation and intuition, learned to read this score. They understood that a poorly shaped structure could trap dangerous energy. During an earthquake, for instance, a building with flat walls and right angles might resonate at a frequency that matches the tremor's own shaking, amplifying the destructive force until the walls crumble. It is like an opera singer hitting the exact note to shatter a glass, but on a catastrophic architectural scale. The genius of their design lies in the opposite principle. They crafted shapes that would dampen these harmful vibrations while subtly encouraging beneficial ones. A perfect dome, with its continuous, flowing curves, does not have a single weak point where energy can concentrate. Instead, it distributes vibrational force across its entire surface, allowing the energy to ripple and dissipate like a stone dropped into a still pond, the waves spreading out until they gently fade away. The interlocking stones of a corbelled vault or the polygonal walls of an Andean fortress work on a similar principle, creating a complex network of surfaces that scatter incoming energy, breaking up dangerous resonant patterns before they can build. This is dynamic stability. The structure is not a rigid, brittle object but a living, responsive system. It can absorb a shock, sway minutely, and then return to perfect equilibrium, much like a tuning fork that rings clearly when struck and then settles back into silent readiness. The builders were not just constructing shelters, they were composing symphonies in stone, where every arch was a chord and every pillar a note in a grand composition meant to harmonize with the very pulse of the earth. Standing on the windswept Salisbury Plain, the great Sarsen stones of Stonehenge are a question carved in rock. Their immense scale is obvious, but their true sophistication is revealed in the smallest details. Look closely at the massive lintels, the horizontal stones that crown the iconic trilithons. They are not simple, straight beams. Each one is subtly, deliberately curved. When placed atop the uprights, these arcs create a continuous, gentle ring, a perfect circle locked in stone. This curvature is the first clue to a deeper understanding. A straight lintel under its own colossal weight would sag in the middle, creating points of fatal tension. But by shaping them into segments of a great circle, the builders transformed that downward force. The weight is now channeled along the curve, compressing each lintel inward towards the center of the ring, turning a weakness into a source of collective strength. The stones literally hold each other up. This genius is compounded by the joinery. On the top of each upright sarsen, the sculptors carved a rounded bump, a tenon. On the underside of each curved lintel, they carved a matching hollow, a mortise. These are not crude notches, they are precision woodworking joints executed in 30-ton blocks of granite. When fitted together, the mortise and tenon connections lock the lintels securely onto their supports, preventing any lateral shift or slippage. The entire outer sarsen circle becomes a single, rigid, interlocking unit, a monolithic bracelet resistant to the relentless push of wind and time. This is shape employed with breathtaking precision, creating a geometric harmony that is both monumentally simple and ingeniously stable. Yet, the story of Stonehenge's strength does not end with the silent geometry of its sarsens. It also whispers from the smaller, darker stones within the circle. The blue stones, transported over a great and arduous distance from the mountains of Wales, possess a remarkable sonic secret. When struck with a hammerstone, they do not produce a dull thud. Instead, they ring with a clear, high-pitched tone, almost metallic in its quality. This is no accident of geology. These particular spotted doleриtes have a crystalline structure that makes them resonate like bells. Their presence here, after such a monumental effort, suggests their sound was as vital as their substance. Imagine the completed circle not as a silent monument, but as a vast instrument. The outer sarsen ring acts as a solid, reflective wall, a sounding board. Within this stone chamber, the ringing of the blue stones would have been amplified, their distinct tones bouncing and mingling in the enclosed space. Ritual chanting, drumming, or the simple act of striking these resonant stones would have filled the circle with a tangible, physical vibration. This leads to a compelling possibility. The site may have been engineered as a colossal resonant chamber. The specific arrangement of the stones, their shapes, and their sonic properties could have been designed to amplify certain frequencies, creating a powerful sensory experience. But beyond ceremony, this sustained, collective sound may have served a subtle structural purpose. The rhythmic, resonant waves flowing through the ground and up through the stone joints could have helped maintain the microscopic seating of each massive block, discouraging the gradual creep of settlement. In this light, Stonehenge emerges not just as a celestial calendar or a temple, but as a frozen chord in the landscape. Its stability is a duet between the visible mastery of shape in its arches and joints and the invisible, felt power of sound held within its very stones. The circle stands because it was built to both withstand force and to sing with it, a testament to builders who understood that to make something truly eternal, you must engage with the world on every level, seen and unseen. Granite has a voice, and in the heart of the Great Pyramid, it sings a deep, enduring song. The King's Chamber is a resonant box built not from ordinary limestone, but from massive, precisely fitted blocks of granite, a stone chosen as much for its sonic character as its strength. The space is acoustically alive in a way that feels intentional. Low-frequency sounds like the sustained hum of a chant or the beat of a drum do not simply echo here. They are amplified and focused, their waves reflecting off the hard, smooth surfaces to build upon one another. In the right conditions, this can create a phenomenon known as a standing wave, where pockets of intense vibration and near silence form in fixed positions within the room. You would not just hear the sound, you would feel it in your bones, a physical pressure pulsing through the air and stone. This leads to a fascinating hypothesis that moves beyond ceremony into the realm of structural engineering. Some researchers suggest that ritual practices within these chambers were not solely spiritual acts, but may have served a dynamic physical purpose. The sustained, resonant frequencies generated by chanting or instrumentation could have created a blanket of vibrational energy throughout the pyramid's core. The idea is not that sound made the stones weightless, but that it could have altered how that weight was perceived and managed by the structure itself. Think of a busy bridge on a windy day. If the wind hits a frequency that matches the bridge's natural resonance, it can begin to sway dangerously, amplifying the stress. Now imagine the opposite. What if you could introduce a carefully chosen, calming frequency into a structure? A steady, low hum resonating through the granite chambers might, in theory, help distribute the immense mechanical stresses of the millions of tons of stone above more evenly. It could discourage the formation of localized pressure points by encouraging the entire mass to vibrate in harmony, much like a tuning fork settling into a pure note. The pyramid's iconic shape then becomes the final component of this system. That smooth, sloping geometry is a perfect waveguide. Any vibrational energy originating in the internal chambers would not be trapped. Instead, the pyramid's form would naturally channel those frequencies upward and outward, dissipating them efficiently into the atmosphere. The structure becomes a giant resonator, designed to transform potential internal stress into harmless energy released from its apex. This paints a picture of the pyramid not as a silent, static tomb, but as a building with a heartbeat. The occasional ritual within its granite heart may have been a tune-up, a way to hum the massive stone lattice into a state of perfect equilibrium, ensuring its millions of blocks settled together as one unified, singing mountain. The silence we hear inside it today might be the echo of a forgotten technology, the memory of a time when architecture was not just built but played. Gothic cathedrals reached for heaven with a skeleton of stone. Their most iconic feature, the Flying Buttress, seems to defy all logic. It is an arch turned inside out, a stone arm leaping away from the wall to meet a massive pier in mid-air. This was not a decorative flourish, but a stroke of structural genius born from a desperate need for light. The Gothic vision demanded walls of stained glass, vast windows that told sacred stories in color and fire. But a tall stone vault pushes outward with tremendous force, threatening to shatter those very windows and topple the walls. The Flying Buttress was the elegant solution, a shaped answer to a problem of physics. It catches the outward thrust of the vault high up on the wall, channeling that dangerous force along its graceful, arched spine and down into a solid pier of masonry rooted deep in the earth. The wall is freed from its load-bearing duty, becoming a fragile, luminous screen held securely within a stone cage. This is shape performing a precise surgical operation on gravity, redirecting force along a predetermined external path. Yet the buttress does more than manage static weight. A cathedral is a living structure under constant assault from the elements. Its great bell towers swing with massive bronze bells, each toll sending powerful shockwaves through the masonry. Fierce winds batter its towering facades, and the rumble of the city below creates a constant, low-grade tremor. The flying buttress, with its arched form, becomes a critical component in managing this vibrational chaos. Like the curved brace of a cello or violin that transfers the string's vibration to the body of the instrument to create rich sound, the flying buttress transfers vibrational energy from the building's upper reaches down into the ground. It acts as a tuned structural pathway. The energy from a swinging bell does not simply dissipate randomly through the tower, risking cracks at weak points. Instead, it is gathered and guided along the arched ribs of the buttresses, flowing smoothly into the earth where it is safely absorbed. The entire cathedral becomes a network of these shaped channels, a frozen cord of stone where every element, from the delicate rib of a vault to the soaring arc of a buttress, is tuned to carry its share of the dynamic load. This intricate stone web ensures that the building does not merely resist these forces, but sings with them, distributing energy harmoniously to preserve its fragile, glass-filled walls for centuries. It is architecture as a resonant instrument, designed not for silence but for a profound and enduring stability that feels almost musical in its logic. The master mason's genius lived in his hands and ears. This profound understanding of shape and resonance was never a formal science written in stone tablets or bound in leather books. It was a living tradition, a craft passed silently from one generation to the next within the closed circles of guilds and through the long, patient years of apprenticeship. A young boy would begin by mixing mortar or fetching tools, his education starting with watching the rhythm of the worksite, absorbing the unspoken language of stone and sound. He learned not through lectures but through immersion, by feeling the difference in resistance as a chisel met granite versus limestone, and by listening to the older men debate the song of a particular block. The master himself was a unique fusion of artist, engineer, and intuitive physicist. His skill was an embodied knowledge, a deep familiarity that resided in his muscles and his senses. He could visualize the invisible lines of force flowing through a half-built arch as clearly as we see the beams of a wooden frame. When he struck a stone to test it, he wasn't just hearing a pitch, he was feeling its integrity vibrate up through the hammer's handle. When he shaped a voussoir for a vault, his hands were guided by an innate sense of how that specific wedge would lock with its neighbors, redirecting weight along the perfect curve. This was the true secret, the elusive knack. It was the ability to have a conversation with the material, to ask a question with a chisel strike, and understand the answer in the stone's ring or its gritty texture. The master didn't just apply geometry to rock. He collaborated with the rock's own resonant character. He knew that the same arch design would behave differently in the dense, ringing granite of a Scottish fortress than in the softer, humming sandstone of a desert temple. His craft was holistic, treating the structure not as a collection of separate parts, but as a single, breathing entity whose strength came from the harmonious relationship of every element. Modern engineering, for all its computational power and material science, is only now beginning to fully appreciate this depth. We can now use laser scanning and acoustic tomography to map the vibrational modes of ancient structures, revealing the hidden patterns of stability the masons built by feel. In doing so, we are not just decoding forgotten techniques, we are rediscovering a lost philosophy of building, one that listened to the world before seeking to command it. The master's intuitive craft now finds its echo in the hum of a laser. Modern laboratories are finally catching up to that ancient wisdom, using tools of breathtaking precision to measure what the masons once felt in their bones. Scientists employ a technique called laser vibrometry, where a harmless, focused beam of light is directed at the surface of an ancient wall or column. This laser acts as a supremely sensitive ear, detecting vibrations finer than a whisper. By analyzing how the structure responds to subtle environmental tremors or even gentle taps, researchers can map its entire resonant fingerprint. They can see, in vivid color-coded diagrams, the standing wave patterns that flow through the stone, revealing how the building naturally vibrates. This data is then fed into powerful computer simulations known as finite element analysis, which digitally models the structure down to the individual stone. Engineers can then simulate earthquakes, applying virtual seismic waves to see how the ancient geometry responds. The results are a stunning validation. Time and again, the models show that shapes like the dome, the arch, and the polygonal wall do not merely withstand these forces, they actively dismantle them. The curved surfaces and complex joints scatter incoming vibrational energy, breaking up coherent, destructive waves into harmless ripples. The computer confirms what the standing stones have whispered for millennia, that these forms are exquisitely tuned to dampen the Earth's own violent song. Beyond the grand scale, science is also probing the microscopic realm where sound meets matter. Laboratory experiments have demonstrated that exposing certain liquid mineral solutions to specific, controlled sonic frequencies can directly influence how crystals form as they solidify. The sound waves guide the molecular architecture, encouraging a more orderly, densely packed crystalline structure. This suggests a profound possibility that the ritual chanting or resonant instruments used at ancient sites might have done more than create an atmosphere. They could have subtly affected the very materials used in construction, perhaps encouraging mortar to set with greater strength or helping adjacent stone faces to settle into a more perfect, interlocking fit. This research is not turning myth into fact, but rather revealing the factual foundation upon which the myths were built. It bridges a gap we created ourselves between the intuitive knowledge of the past and the empirical data of the present. We are discovering that the ancient builders were not primitive, nor were they magical. They were pioneering vibrational engineers operating with a sophisticated, observation-based proto-science that understood the universe as an interplay of form and frequency. Their legacy is not just in the stones they left behind, but in a forgotten way of thinking, one that listened to the world and learned to build in harmony with its deepest, most resonant laws. The silent symphony within ancient stone now whispers to the architects of our own age. In a world of steel and glass, facing the urgent challenges of climate resilience and seismic uncertainty, a profound shift is underway. Designers and engineers are not just looking back for inspiration, they are actively decoding those ancient principles to build a smarter, more sustainable future. This is not a rejection of modernity, but an evolution, a merging of timeless intuition with cutting-edge computation. The most direct translation is found in the fight against earthquakes. Today's shape optimization software performs millions of digital calculations to design building components that bear a striking, intelligent resemblance to ancient polygonal masonry. Instead of uniform beams and flat panels, these algorithms generate complex, organic forms with varied angles and interlocking geometries, structures that naturally disrupt and dissipate seismic energy. The result is a new generation of buildings that are both lighter and far stronger, designed to sway with a tremor rather than fight it. Their very forms a digital echo of Andean walls that have stood for a millennium. This is geometry rediscovered as a dynamic language of survival. Beyond the brute force of quakes, a subtler revolution is tuning the very air within our towers. In the highest skyscrapers, wind can cause uncomfortable, even nauseating vibrations. The solution is emerging from the field of acoustic metamaterials, artificially engineered substances designed to control sound and vibration in ways natural materials cannot. Imagine a building's skin or its internal skeleton woven with microscopic structures that act like acoustic lenses, bending and absorbing specific vibrational frequencies. These materials can silence the groan of a gale or the low-frequency rumble of urban traffic, creating serene interiors in the sky. They are a technological realization of the Gothic mason's intent, giving architects the tools to compose a building's vibrational signature with precision. This return to foundational wisdom represents a holistic reimagining of what a building can be. It moves beyond mere shelter to create structures that are in active dialogue with their environment. By relearning how to tune our buildings to consider their resonant relationship with the earth and the atmosphere, we unlock a path toward resilience that uses less material, consumes less energy, and endures for generations. The ancient builders understood that harmony was the source of true strength. In embracing their lessons, we are not just building for the future, we are learning to listen to the past, discovering that the most advanced solutions are often those that have been singing to us all along, waiting for our technology to finally hear the tune. The line between revolutionary science and captivating myth is often a whisper, not a shout. As we explore this world of ancient vibrational engineering, a critical distinction must be made, one that honors the genuine genius without falling into the trap of unsupported fantasy. The physical evidence for the mastery of shape is overwhelming and incontrovertible. We can see it, measure it, and run computer simulations that prove the arch, the dome, and the polygonal wall work exactly as the builders intended. Their geometry is a silent, permanent record of profound understanding. The evidence for the applied use of sound, however, exists on a spectrum. On one end, we have well-documented, observable practices. The sonic testing of stones in the quarry is a historical fact recorded across multiple cultures. The acoustic properties of certain rocks, like the ringing bluestones of Stonehenge or the resonant granite of the King's Chamber, are measurable physical truths. These are not speculations, they are material realities that the builders clearly recognized and utilized. On the other end of the spectrum lie the more extraordinary claims, like the legends of acoustic levitation used to move megalithic blocks. These stories are powerful cultural memories, but as literal descriptions of events, they remain in the realm of fascinating speculation rather than proven history. To suggest that ancient people floated stones with trumpets is to replace their demonstrable engineering skill with a kind of magic that ultimately diminishes their real accomplishment. This critical examination is not meant to drain the wonder from the past, but to ground it in a more plausible and even more impressive reality. The true, observable genius lies not in mythical feats, but in the brilliant synthesis of these two principles. It is the use of resonant properties to select flawless stone, and then the placement of that perfect material within a shape engineered to channel force and vibration for millennia. This combination requires no supernatural explanation. It points instead to generations of meticulous observation, of listening to the earth and learning its language. They heard a stone ring true and knew it was strong. They saw a crack form along a curve and understood the arch. They felt their temple hum during a ceremony and realized their building was alive with energy. This was a science of perception, built on a deep, intuitive collaboration with the natural world. By separating the documented practices from the more speculative legends, we clear the way to appreciate what they truly achieved, a legacy of stone that continues to teach us about harmony, resilience, and the enduring power of a brilliant idea made solid. The rhythmic chant of 100 voices was a different kind of mortar. When we consider the legends of sound-moving mountains, the most profound truth may not be in the stone's reaction, but in the people's. The ritual use of chant, drum, and melody during construction served a purpose far deeper than any speculative physical effect on the rock. Its primary and undeniable function was to synchronize the human machine. Before cranes and hydraulics, moving a multi-ton block required the perfectly coordinated effort of dozens, sometimes hundreds, of individuals. A shared rhythmic call, a collective breath timed to the pull of a rope, transformed a chaotic crowd into a single, powerful organism. The beat set the pace, the chant provided a focus, turning back breaking labor into a flowing, communal act. This was practical psychology on a monumental scale, using sound to align muscle and will toward a common goal. But the purpose went beyond mere efficiency. These sonic rituals wove the fabric of belief directly into the structure's foundation. Each repeated prayer, each sacred song offered as a stone was set, imbued the material with cultural meaning. It was a process of consecration through participation. The builders weren't just stacking rocks, they were collectively telling a story, singing their values, their history, and their hopes into the very bones of the building. This psychoacoustic aspect, the effect of sound on the mind and spirit of the community, created a social resonance as vital as any physical vibration in the stone. A workforce united in purpose and meaning builds with more than their hands. They build with care, with an investment that transcends the daily wage. This shared sonic experience forged a powerful group identity, turning laborers into custodians of a shared dream. The structure became a physical echo of their collective effort and belief, making its preservation a matter of cultural pride for generations. In this light, the ritual sound did not magically strengthen the mortar, but it absolutely strengthened the resolve of the people mixing and laying it. It ensured that every block was placed with intention, that every joint was made not just to hold weight, but to honor a tradition. The true resonance was in the human heart, a frequency of shared purpose that helped these communities achieve the impossible, leaving behind monuments that stand as testaments not only to engineering, but to the enduring power of a united voice. The true site for a sacred structure was not chosen by chance. Before a single stone was laid, ancient builders engaged in a profound act of listening, not just to the rock, but to the land itself. They sought locations where the earth seemed to sing, places with a palpable vibrational character that modern science might call specific acoustic or geophysical properties. A cliff face that returned a perfect echo, a valley where whispers carried for miles, or a hilltop that seemed to hum in a strong wind were not just scenic spots. They were amplifiers, natural stages where human architecture could join a conversation already in progress. This careful selection process, a practice often grouped under the broad term geomancy, was about aligning a man-made form with the invisible energies of the terrestrial world. It was the search for harmony on the deepest possible level. One of the most sought-after features was the presence of underground water. A flowing aquifer or a deep subterranean stream does more than provide a vital resource. It creates a constant, low-frequency resonance as water moves through rock cavities and fissures. This creates a subtle vibrational baseline, a steady hum that permeates the ground above. By placing a shaped, resonant building directly over such a feature, the builders were essentially plugging their structure into the Earth's own power grid. The building's foundations would act as a receiver, tuned by its geometry to interact with this subterranean song. This created a powerful feedback loop. The Earth's vibrations would flow upward into the stonework, and the structure, designed with arches and chambers to channel such energy, would respond in kind. It was a symbiotic relationship where the landscape empowered the building and the building, in turn, gave that energy a shaped and purposeful form. This ancient intuition finds a direct echo in the rigorous practices of modern geotechnical engineering. Before any skyscraper or bridge is built today, teams of specialists analyze the proposed site with seismic tomography and ground-penetrating radar. They are mapping the same vibrational landscape, identifying stable bedrock, locating hidden water tables, and detecting fault lines. Their goal is identical to that of the ancient geomancer: to understand how the earth will sing so they can design a structure that will sing in harmony with it, avoiding destructive resonant frequencies. The difference is one of language, not intent. Where the modern engineer sees data points and wave propagation models, the ancient master felt a sacred alignment, a rightness of place. In both cases, the principle holds true. The most enduring buildings are not imposed upon the landscape, but emerge from a dialogue with it. They become antennas, carefully tuned to draw stability and strength from the very frequencies of the planet they stand upon. Yet for all we are learning, the stones guard their deepest secrets. We can measure their resonant frequencies with lasers and map the flow of force through their curved forms, but the living heart of the craft remains silent. The exact chants used to tune a foundation, the specific sequences of drumbeats meant to guide a block into place, the precise tonal recipes known to the master masons, these have all faded into the quiet of history. This silence is not an empty void, but a profound reminder. It speaks to a kind of knowledge that was fundamentally experiential and tacit, learned not from a scroll but through the calloused hands and attuned ears of a lifetime. This wisdom lived in the rhythm of a hammer swing, in the subtle difference between the ring of Bath limestone and the hum of Welsh bluestone, in the felt vibration of a chisel as it met a seam. It was a continuous, unspoken dialogue between the craftsman and his material, impossible to fully capture in written words or diagrams. This presents a beautiful and humbling challenge to our modern way of understanding. We are masters of analysis, of taking things apart to see how they work. We isolate variables, run controlled tests, and seek the universal law. The ancient builders, however, operated from a place of synthesis. They thought holistically, perceiving the site, the stone, the shape, and the sound as inseparable parts of a single, living system. For them, a block was not just a weight and a volume, it was a resonant personality. An arch was not just a structural solution, it was a channel for energy both seen and unseen. To truly grasp their achievement, we must try, however imperfectly, to step into that mindset. We must attempt to listen as they listened, not just for a pitch but for a conversation. What was the dialogue between this granite pillar and the bedrock beneath it? How did the form of this vault respond to the wind singing across the valley? Their genius was in hearing the question the environment posed and crafting a built answer that would resonate for ages. The silence, then, is not a wall but an invitation. It asks us to move beyond external analysis and toward a more empathetic form of inquiry. We can continue to scan and simulate, but we must also pause and perceive. Standing in the shadow of these monuments, we might close our eyes and feel, rather than just see, the coolness of the stone, the way sound behaves in the space, the sheer presence of a mass shaped by human intention. This experiential gap is where the mystery and the majesty persist. It tells us that some truths are transmitted not through information, but through practice, through a lineage of careful attention passed from mentor to apprentice until it becomes second nature. The stones may not give up their acoustic formulas, but they still teach us a crucial lesson about knowledge itself, that the deepest understanding often lies in the space between the note and the ear, in the silent, felt harmony between a thing and its place in the world. The same principles that shaped cathedrals also shaped the songs they held. This deep understanding of vibration and form was not confined to silent stone. It resonated through the very objects ancient cultures created to make sound itself. The crafting of a perfect bronze bell or a finely tuned lyre was not a separate art from building a temple. It was the same knowledge applied to a different medium. In both cases, the goal was to harness and direct vibrational energy with precision. A master bell founder, like a master mason, was a vibrational engineer. He knew that the bell's final tone was not determined by the bronze alone, but by its exact shape, the curve of its walls, and the thickness of the metal at every point. A perfectly proportioned bell, when struck, vibrates in a harmonious set of frequencies, producing a clear, rich note that carries for miles. A flaw in its geometry, however, creates discordant overtones, a muddy, unpleasant sound that reveals a hidden weakness in the casting. This is why the largest temple bells, like the massive bell of King Seongdeok in Korea, were technological marvels. Their immense size and weight had to be balanced with a shape so precise it could produce a pure, deep tone that was both a call to community and a demonstration of sovereign power. The bell's durability and its voice were one and the same achievement, born from an applied science of resonance. This technological cross-pollination reveals a startlingly unified worldview. Ancient societies did not see physics, music, and architecture as separate fields. They understood them as different expressions of a single, vibrational reality. The knowledge used to tune a stone vault was directly related to the knowledge used to tune a stringed instrument. In ancient Greece, the mathematician Pythagoras famously discovered the mathematical relationships between musical intervals by experimenting with vibrating strings. These harmonic ratios were not just for creating pleasing melodies. They were considered the fundamental proportions of the cosmos itself, the same sacred geometry that might later inform the dimensions of a temple. This unified theory extended even to objects of conflict. The making of a superior sword, for instance, relied on an intimate understanding of a metal's resonant properties. A master swordsmith would listen to the ring of the blade as he worked it, the sound telling him about the uniformity of the steel's grain and the success of the tempering process. A clear, sustained ring indicated a blade free of internal flaws, one that would flex without breaking. A dead or cracked sound meant a hidden weakness that could spell disaster in battle. The sword's shape, its taper and balance, also managed vibrational energy, allowing it to absorb the shock of impact without shattering. From the sacred to the martial, the same principle held true. Perfection was achieved when form and resonance were in harmony. This holistic approach meant that innovation in one domain could fuel discovery in another. The techniques for casting flawless bronze for statues might improve the quality of bells, and the understanding of acoustics in a theater might inspire a new method for laying a foundation. It was a culture of applied resonance where the goal was always to create objects, whether for beauty, worship, or utility, that were not just made but perfectly tuned. The final lesson is not in a textbook but in a shift of perception. These ancient sites ask us to listen with more than our ears. When you stand before the remains of a great wall or pass beneath a weathered arch, pause for a moment. See it not as a dead relic but as a captured moment of profound harmony. Try to sense the frequency it was built to endure, the seismic song of the earth it was tuned to withstand. In your mind's ear, reconstruct the chorus of its creation, the ringing hammer in the quarry, the deep, rhythmic chant of the laborers, the final perfect note as the capstone settled into place. This simple act of reimagining changes everything. History ceases to be a flat page of dates and names. It becomes a living, vibrational dialogue across the centuries. The structure before you is no longer silent. It is a sustained chord in the long symphony of human ingenuity, a physical argument for building in concert with the world rather than in defiance of it. The stones have been telling their story all along in the language of form and resonance. Our task is to become fluent once more, to learn how to hear the music in the masonry, and to carry that timeless tune into the foundations of our own future. This journey through geometry and resonance reveals a forgotten language of creation. We have traced the silent strength of the arch and the eternal stability of the pyramid, and listened for the hum within stones chosen for their song. These were not separate arts, but a unified philosophy of building. The ancient master understood that to create something meant to last 1,000 years, you could not simply impose your will upon the world. You had to listen to it first. You had to learn the song of the local stone, feel the vibrational character of the land, and then craft a shape that would enter into a lasting dialogue with those forces. Their true material was not just limestone or granite, but harmony itself. The harmony of a form that guides weight along graceful curves, and the harmony of a material tuned to resonate with the very frequency of its purpose. This deep, intuitive collaboration with the natural world is their most profound legacy. It asks us to reconsider our own relationship with the built environment. Look at the oldest bridge in your town or the vaulted ceiling of an old train station. See them not as static objects, but as captured conversations between human ingenuity and physical law. Listen for the silent music in their geometry. That shift in perception is the real gift of this exploration. It invites you to hear the hidden symphonies in the world around you, to recognize that the most enduring things are always built in concert with the deeper rhythms of existence. If this fusion of history and science has resonated with you, we would love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. Share which ancient structure speaks to you most, or what modern building you think carries this harmonic wisdom forward. Subscribe to join us as we continue to uncover the profound secrets of our shared past. The stones have been waiting for us to listen, and their story is far from over.